There comes a moment in life when you have to look in the mirror and declare to yourself, I wasn't born to be average. I wasn't put on this earth to just survive, to just pay bills, to just exist in the shadows of mediocrity. Deep down, you know it. There's a fire inside of you that refuses to settle, that screams for more, that hungers for greatness. And yet, most people silence that voice. They numb it with excuses, with fear, with conformity. But not you, not anymore. Average is safe, average is easy, average is comfortable, but average is also deadly, because it kills dreams slowly, silently, without you even noticing until it's too late. Being average means living a life of regret, wondering what could have been, wishing you had dared to step up, to break the chains, to go after what you truly wanted. You weren't born to be average. You were born to create, to expand, to push limits, to be an example of what's possible. Think about it. Every person who ever changed the world, every person who left a mark on history, they were told at some point that they were crazy, unrealistic, too ambitious, but they refused to bow to average. They refused to conform to the expectations of the crowd. And here's the truth. You don't rise above average by accident. You rise because you demand more of yourself. You rise because you set higher standards. You rise because you decide in your soul that mediocrity is no longer an option. From this moment, you have to raise your standards so high that average cannot breathe in your presence. It starts with your beliefs. If you believe you're meant for average, you'll settle for average. But if you believe you're destined for greatness, your actions will align, your energy will rise, your commitment will deepen, and life will meet you at the level of your belief. So the question is not whether you can escape average. The question is, will you? Will you refuse the excuses? Will you destroy the distractions? Will you step into the arena of life and fight for the extraordinary? Because, make no mistake, greatness is not given, it's claimed. Success is not reserved for the chosen few. It's reserved for those who choose. And today, you get to choose. You can choose to live small, or you can choose to unleash everything within you. You weren't born to be average. You were born to lead, to inspire, to break boundaries, to rise when others quit, to believe when others doubt, to move when others stand still. You were born to live a life that one day when you look back, you say, yes, I gave it everything. I left nothing behind. I lived with passion. I lived with purpose. I lived beyond average. So declare it now. Declare it with everything in you. I wasn't born to be average. I was born to be extraordinary. Average is safe, but it kills dreams silently. When we talk about the idea of safety, it's almost always connected to comfort, to predictability, to the avoidance of risk. Safety feels good in the moment because it shields you from the unknown. It protects you from criticism. It keeps you in an environment where you don't have to stretch, where you don't have to put yourself on the line. But that very same safety has a hidden cost, and it's one of the most expensive costs you will ever pay in life, because it robs you of possibility, it strips you of potential, and it leaves you with the hollow ache of unrealized dreams. The truth is, average is the greatest seducer of the human spirit, because it convinces you that you're doing fine, that you don't need to change, that you can just glide through life without pressing beyond your limits. But fine is not fulfillment. Fine is not the life you imagined when you were a child with wild dreams and limitless imagination. Fine is not the fire in your heart that tells you there is more for you to do, more for you to experience, more for you to create. Average is not failure, and that's why it's so dangerous. If you fail, you feel pain, you feel discomfort, you feel the sting of disappointment, and those emotions can push you to change, to rise, to demand more of yourself. But average is subtle, it's quiet, it doesn't hurt in the moment. It lulls you into thinking everything is okay. You go through your days with routines, with habits, with predictable patterns, never questioning whether those routines are killing your passion, never asking if those patterns are stealing your potential. And then, years down the line, you look back and realize the opportunities you let slip, the moments you didn't seize, the risks you avoided, and the person you could have become had you dared to live beyond safe. Dreams don't die in explosions. They die in whispers. They die slowly, through the choices to settle, to compromise, to say maybe later, instead of why not now. They die in the silence of excuses, in the quiet postponement of action, in the comfort of staying with what is familiar. You tell yourself you're okay. You tell yourself you're doing enough. And yet, somewhere deep down, your soul knows you're living beneath your true capability. That's the silent death that average delivers. It doesn't announce itself. It just erodes you little by little, year after year, until the dream that once lit you up becomes a faint memory, and you no longer recognize the fire that once made you alive. Safety has a way of disguising itself as wisdom. People will tell you to play it safe, to not take too many risks, to stay in your lane, to be realistic. But being realistic has destroyed more dreams than failure ever has. The world doesn't reward average. It doesn't celebrate mediocrity. It doesn't remember those who played small. The world remembers those who dared to go beyond safe, those who were willing to step into uncertainty, those who risked criticism, those who put their hearts on the line even when success wasn't guaranteed. Safety keeps you average, and average keeps you invisible. And you weren't born to live invisible. You weren't born to blend in. You weren't born to simply exist in the background of life. The tragedy of average is that it convinces you that tomorrow is guaranteed. You tell yourself you'll take the leap later. You'll chase the dream next year. You'll start when the timing is perfect. And in that waiting, life passes you by. You miss the chance to build momentum. You miss the chance to grow through the struggle. You miss the chance to discover who you really are when everything is on the line. Average says there's no rush, but the truth is there's nothing more urgent than living fully now, because none of us are promised more time. Every moment you delay, every day you settle, every opportunity you let slip through your hands because it feels safer to wait, is a moment of your life you can never get back. Average kills dreams silently, and it also kills joy. Passion doesn't survive in comfort zones. Excitement doesn't thrive in repetition. Fulfillment doesn't come from doing the same thing every day while knowing deep down you are capable of more. The human spirit was built for expansion, for growth, for challenge, for progress. That's why when you achieve something you once thought was impossible, you feel alive. That's why when you push through fear and take a risk, even if you stumble, you feel proud. That's why when you stretch yourself and see how much more you are capable of, you discover a deeper sense of self-respect. Average doesn't give you that. Average takes away the very experiences that make life meaningful. Think of every person you admire, every person who inspired you, every person whose name lives on in history. Not one of them chose average. They chose risk. They chose to step into the unknown. They chose to pursue a vision that others thought was impossible. And while the majority sat in safety, they stepped into greatness. They paid the price of rejection, of setbacks, of temporary failure, but in doing so, they gained the reward of purpose, of fulfillment, of impact. If they had settled for average, their names would have been forgotten, their legacies erased, their influence non-existent, and the same is true for you. If you choose average, you choose invisibility. You choose to live a life that is remembered by no one, not even yourself, because deep down you will know that you never truly lived. Every time you settle for average, you teach yourself to stop dreaming. You condition your mind to accept less. You tell your spirit to quiet down, to stop demanding more, to stop reminding you of the greatness you are capable of. You become comfortable in the cage of safety, but the bars of that cage are invisible, which makes it even harder to escape. And unless you wake up, unless you break free, unless you decide to risk being uncomfortable for the sake of being alive, you will continue to slowly suffocate in the silence of average. Average is safe, but it kills dreams silently, and the cost of that death is too high for anyone who has even a spark of greatness inside of them. If you are reading this, if you are listening to these words, then you already know there is something inside of you that refuses to settle. You already know there is more for you, more to give, more to experience, more to create. You already know that safety may protect you from failure, but it also protects you from the very life you were meant to live. And the moment you recognize that truth, the moment you decide that average will no longer define you, you begin to reclaim your dreams, your power, your potential. You begin to awaken the part of you that was born for more, the part of you that has been waiting for you to finally choose to live boldly instead of safely, to live fully instead of comfortably, to live intentionally instead of silently. Greatness begins with raising your standard. Every single breakthrough in your life, every transformation, every leap forward begins not with resources, not with luck, not with the approval of others, but with a shift in what you demand of yourself. Standards are the invisible lines that determine what you tolerate, what you pursue, and ultimately what you achieve. Most people live their lives with standards set so low that they never have to stretch, never have to struggle, never have to grow. They accept average health, average relationships, average finances, average contribution, and then they wonder why they feel unfulfilled, why something feels missing, why life doesn't ignite them with energy. It's not because they lack ability, it's because they have settled for standards that are beneath them. Raising your standards is not about wishing, it's not about hoping things get better, it's not about setting another goal you never follow through on. It's about drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is no longer acceptable. This is the minimum I will accept for myself, and nothing less. It is the act of elevating your expectations so high that mediocrity cannot exist in your reality. Think of the difference between someone who wants to get fit and someone who must get fit. The person who merely wants it will dabble, they'll show up sometimes, they'll eat healthy for a week, then slip back, they'll make excuses about being busy. But the person who raises their standards and says, I must have the energy, I must have the strength, I must feel alive, finds a way to do it no matter what. That difference is standards, and that difference is the gap between ordinary and extraordinary. Every person who has achieved greatness, whether in business, in sports, in art, in science, didn't start with perfect conditions. They started with a standard. They decided that good enough wasn't good enough for them anymore. They demanded more from themselves than others thought was reasonable. They committed to excellence when everyone else was content with average, and over time that decision compounded into results that changed not only their lives, but the lives of everyone around them. The reality is, your life right now is a reflection of the standards you've set. If you are unhappy with any area of your life, it's not because you don't have potential. It's because your standards in that area have been too low. The beauty of raising standards is that it changes everything immediately. You don't need to wait for circumstances to change. You don't need to wait for someone to give you permission. The moment you decide, truly decide, that you will no longer accept less than what you're capable of, you start to move differently, you talk differently, you think differently, you attract different opportunities. Because the energy of someone who demands more of themselves is magnetic. People feel it, life responds to it, doors open to it, and the opposite is also true. When your standards are low, you give off the energy of resignation, and life mirrors that back to you with mediocrity. Look at any area where you've grown in the past. At some point, you raised your standard. Maybe you were sick of being broke, so you decided to learn, to hustle, to build something better. Maybe you were tired of feeling unhealthy, so you decided that your body deserved more. Maybe you were done with toxic relationships, so you demanded respect, honesty, and love. In every case, the turning point wasn't the strategy, it was the standard. Strategies follow standards. When you raise what you demand of yourself, the strategies appear because your mind goes to work on finding a way to meet the new level. But if you never raise the standard, you never activate that power. Greatness doesn't come to people who accept what is handed to them. It comes to people who demand more of themselves than anyone else ever could. It comes to people who set standards so high that they live with urgency, with discipline, with hunger, because anything less than their best is unacceptable. That doesn't mean perfection. It means commitment. It means refusing to settle for half-hearted effort. It means refusing to accept excuses. It means deciding that your vision, your dream, your potential deserves the highest level of effort and energy you can bring to it. When you raise your standards, you also change your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries, and you start seeing yourself as someone who does. You stop seeing yourself as someone who settles, and you start seeing yourself as someone who leads. You stop identifying with the old patterns that held you back, and you begin to embody the version of yourself that lives at a higher level. And identity drives behavior. When your identity shifts because your standards rise, your actions naturally follow. You don't have to force yourself to follow through anymore because it becomes who you are. The reason most people don't raise their standards is because it's uncomfortable. It requires facing the truth about where you've been settling. It requires giving up the excuses you've been clinging to. It requires letting go of the comfort that comes with being average, but that discomfort is the birthplace of greatness. The very moment you feel the discomfort of raising your standards is the moment you are breaking free from the chains of mediocrity. And if you can push through that discomfort long enough, it transforms into pride, into momentum, into fulfillment. Raising your standards is also contagious. When you demand more of yourself, the people around you either rise with you or fall away. You begin to attract others who live with passion, with purpose, with discipline. You begin to surround yourself with energy that lifts you higher instead of holding you down. And in doing so, you create an environment that reinforces your new standards, making it easier to sustain them and to grow even further. Greatness begins with raising your standards, and it continues with living by them every single day. Not just when it's convenient, not just when you feel motivated, but especially when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when no one is watching. That's when standards matter most, because anyone can act at a high level when it's easy, but only those who live by their standards in the difficult moments create lasting greatness. Belief shapes destiny. What you believe, you become. From the moment you wake up in the morning until the moment you close your eyes at night, your entire life is filtered through the lens of your beliefs. Beliefs are not just ideas you hold in your mind. They are the foundation of how you interpret reality, how you act, how you respond, how you dream. They are the invisible architecture of your destiny. And whether you rise to greatness or stay trapped in mediocrity depends on the strength and direction of those beliefs. Every breakthrough, every achievement, every transformation begins not with what you have in your hands, but with what you hold in your mind and in your heart. If you believe you are limited, you will live limited. If you believe you are capable of extraordinary things, you will push yourself into arenas where extraordinary becomes your reality. Beliefs have the power to either unlock your potential or imprison it. They are like the operating system running in the background of your life, quietly dictating the limits of what you think is possible, often without you even realizing it. Most people fail not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, but because they have built a belief system that convinces them they cannot go further, that convinces them they are not enough, that convinces them success is for someone else. And once you accept that belief, your actions follow, your energy lowers, your destiny shrinks. The most dangerous thing about belief is that it becomes self-fulfilling. If you believe you can't, you won't even try. If you believe you don't deserve more, you will sabotage yourself every time an opportunity arises. If you believe you are destined to stay average, you will unconsciously create a life that matches that belief. But the opposite is also true. When you believe you can, you find the strength to try again after setbacks. When you believe you are worthy of love, you attract healthier relationships. When you believe you are destined for greatness, you begin to live in alignment with that destiny, making choices, taking risks, and showing up with an energy that pulls you toward that future. The world is filled with examples of people who came from nothing, who had every reason to fail, who had no resources, no connections, no advantages, and yet they believed differently. They believed they could create something out of nothing. They believed they could rewrite the story they were born into. They believed that circumstances didn't define them, that their past didn't limit their future, that their vision mattered more than their environment. And because they believed, they acted. Because they acted, they built momentum. Because they built momentum, they shaped a destiny that once seemed impossible. The only difference between those who create extraordinary lives and those who stay trapped in mediocrity is the set of beliefs they choose to accept as truth. The tragedy is that most of our beliefs are not even chosen consciously. They are inherited. They come from parents, from teachers, from society, from past failures, from the voices of people who projected their own limitations onto us. As children, we absorb these beliefs without questioning them, and then we live them out as if they are law. If you were told you weren't smart enough, you begin to believe it, and then you stop trying in school, and then your actions match the belief. If you were told money is evil, you believe it, and then you unconsciously push away opportunities to create abundance. If you were told dreams are unrealistic, you believe it, and then you never pursue the vision in your heart. These beliefs act like invisible chains, holding people back from the lives they were meant to live. But beliefs can be changed. They are not fixed. They are not permanent. They are choices. The moment you challenge a limiting belief and replace it with an empowering one, you rewrite the trajectory of your life. You begin to open doors that were once invisible to you. You begin to take actions you never considered before. You begin to align yourself with a higher version of who you are meant to be. It all begins with deciding what you are going to believe about yourself, about the world, about what is possible. And that decision is more powerful than any obstacle you will ever face, because obstacles are external, but beliefs are internal, and the internal always drives the external. Think of the times you surprised yourself when you achieved something you once thought was beyond you. What changed in that moment was not suddenly having more talent or more resources. It was a shift in belief. Maybe someone encouraged you, maybe you proved yourself wrong, maybe you decided you were tired of settling, but something inside you changed and that belief unleashed action. The moment you believed differently, you behaved differently. And that is the essence of transformation. It is never the external that comes first. It is always the internal belief that fuels the external change. Belief shapes not only what you attempt, but how you experience the journey. Two people can face the same challenge, one believing it is impossible, the other believing it is a stepping stone, and their experiences will be completely different. The first will see every setback as proof they should quit. The second will see every setback as training for the future. The first will collapse under the weight of fear. The second will rise with resilience because their belief system interprets the struggle as part of the process. Belief changes how you interpret pain, how you interpret failure, how you interpret opportunity. It is the lens through which you experience your entire life. If you want to change your destiny, you must first change your beliefs. Start by questioning them. Ask yourself, where did this belief come from? Is it true? Is it serving me? Who would I be without this belief? Then, replace the beliefs that hold you back with beliefs that push you forward. Believe that you are capable of more than you've shown so far. Believe that your vision is possible even if you don't know the how yet. Believe that your past does not dictate your future. Believe that every challenge is shaping you into the person capable of living your dream. When you hold these beliefs consistently, you align your actions with them and life responds. Beliefs are seeds. Plant limiting beliefs and your life will grow weeds of frustration and regret. Plant empowering beliefs and your life will bloom with opportunities and fulfillment. The soil of your mind will grow whatever you choose to plant, and you choose through the beliefs you accept as truth. Choose carefully because your destiny is at stake. Choose wisely because what you believe you will inevitably become. Success is not given, it's claimed by choice and action. Too often people look at those who are living at a high level and think they were lucky, that someone handed them opportunities, that they were born with advantages no one else had. But the truth is, real success is never something that falls into your lap. It is not gifted by chance. It is not inherited by default. It is not something the world delivers to you because you deserve it. Success is earned. It is demanded. It is claimed by those who make the choice to pursue it relentlessly and back that choice with consistent action. Every great achievement is born not out of entitlement but out of responsibility. The responsibility of saying, if it's going to happen, it's up to me. Choice is the starting point of every success story. At some point, a person chooses to no longer accept the life they have been living. They choose to stop making excuses. They choose to stop waiting for permission. They choose to step into the arena of life and commit to a vision that matters to them. That choice is not made once. It is made daily, sometimes hourly, because every moment you are faced with decisions that either pull you closer to your vision or drag you further away from it. Successful people make the choice to show up, to persist, to keep going, to put in the effort even when it's inconvenient, even when no one is watching, even when there are no guarantees. That is where success begins, with a conscious decision to own your destiny instead of leaving it to chance. But choice alone is not enough. Action is what breathes life into choice. Without action, choice is just a wish. Without movement, a decision is nothing but an idea floating in the air. The gap between wanting and having, between dreaming and living, between wishing and achieving, is bridged only by consistent, determined action. Success requires stepping forward when others hesitate, taking risks when others stay safe, doing the work when others quit. It requires countless small actions repeated over and over until momentum builds, until habits are formed, until progress compounds into results that cannot be denied. Action is what separates the talkers from the doers, the dreamers from the achievers, the ones who hope from the ones who claim. Anyone can say they want success. Anyone can imagine a better life, but only those who take action, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's uncertain, move from wanting into becoming. Success is not given because you wished hard enough. It's claimed because you acted boldly enough. The reason many people never taste true success is because they wait. They wait for the right time. They wait for the perfect plan. They wait for someone else to validate them. They wait until they feel ready. But the truth is, there is no perfect time. There is no flawless plan. There is no magical moment when everything lines up and the path becomes easy. Success belongs to those who stop waiting and start doing. The act of moving forward, of taking action despite imperfection, despite fear, despite uncertainty, is what creates opportunities. Life doesn't reward hesitation, it rewards movement. Success also demands resilience, because action is not a straight path upward. Every person who has claimed success has faced setbacks, failures, disappointments, rejections. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not the absence of struggle, it is the response to struggle. When they fall, they rise again. When they fail, they learn and adjust. When doors close, they knock on new ones or they build their own. Every setback becomes fuel, every obstacle becomes training, every challenge becomes part of the journey. Action in the face of difficulty is what carves the path to success, because anyone can take action when it's easy, but only the truly committed continue when it's hard. Success is not a one-time event, it is a lifestyle. It is not about achieving one goal and then stopping. It is about living in alignment with a standard that demands your best effort consistently. It is about waking up every day and choosing again to act in accordance with your vision. It is about building habits that make success inevitable, because habits are the compound interest of action. The small daily disciplines that seem insignificant in the moment, when multiplied over time, become unstoppable momentum. Claiming success also means taking full ownership. You cannot claim success while blaming others. You cannot claim success while waiting for external rescue. You cannot claim success while living as a victim of your circumstances. Ownership means recognizing that while you may not control everything that happens to you, you always control your response. You always control your effort. You always control your mindset. Success is claimed by those who stop pointing fingers and start looking in the mirror, those who stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "How can I use this?" Ownership transforms setbacks into stepping stones, challenges into opportunities, and responsibility into power. There is a reason success is so rare. Most people want it, but they don't want to pay the price. They want the rewards, but not the sacrifices, the glory, but not the grind, the victory, but not the battle. But success is not given, and it never will be, because if it were given freely, it would have no value. It is valuable precisely because it requires something of you. It requires discipline, focus, sacrifice, courage, persistence, and above all, relentless action. Those who claim it don't do so because it was easy. They do so because they were willing to do what others wouldn't. When you understand that success is not a matter of luck, not a matter of inheritance, not a matter of talent alone, but a matter of choice and action, you stop waiting and start creating. You stop hoping and start building. You stop complaining and start moving. You realize that your destiny is not something you discover. It is something you decide and then pursue with everything you have. The people who change their lives, the people who transform their futures, the people who leave a legacy are not the ones who were handed everything. They are the ones who claimed it through the power of their choices and the consistency of their actions. You weren't born to settle. You were born to be extraordinary. Deep inside every person there is a pull, a voice that whispers about the life they could be living, the person they could become, the impact they could create. It is the calling of the extraordinary, the reminder that you were not placed on this earth to simply drift through days, to check boxes, to play small in the grand arena of life. Settling feels safe, it feels comfortable, it feels familiar, but it robs you of the chance to discover what you are truly capable of. To settle is to betray the gift you were given when you were born, the gift of limitless potential, the gift of imagination, the gift of growth. You were designed for more. You were wired for expansion. You were created with the ability to rise above circumstances and create a life that reflects your highest self. Extraordinary is not about being better than others. It is about being better than the version of yourself that settles. It is about waking up each day and deciding that you will not live on autopilot, that you will not accept mediocrity as your fate, that you will not let fear dictate your future. It is about choosing growth over comfort, courage over safety, vision over limitation. When you settle, you deny yourself the chance to live a life of passion, purpose, and fulfillment. But when you reach for extraordinary, you ignite a fire that not only transforms your own life, but inspires those around you to rise as well. You weren't born to settle for an average job, an average relationship, an average body, an average existence. You weren't born to simply survive, to get through the week, to wait for weekends and call that living. You weren't born to sit on the sidelines while others play the game of life with everything they've got. Settling is choosing to watch your potential slip away in exchange for temporary comfort. But extraordinary is about reclaiming your power and saying, I am capable of more, and I will not stop until I see it realized. Extraordinary requires standards that refuse to compromise. It requires a vision that is bigger than excuses. It requires a belief that even when the odds are stacked against you, even when people doubt you, even when you face setbacks and failures, there is something inside you that will not give in. Extraordinary people are not those who never fall. They are those who refuse to stay down. They are the ones who take the pain of defeat and turn it into fuel, who take the criticism of others and turn it into fire, who take the uncertainty of the future and turn it into possibility. Settling comes from fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of stepping into the unknown. Fear whispers that it's better to stay where you are, that it's too risky to dream bigger, that you might lose if you try. But what most people never realize is that by settling, you lose far more than you ever would by failing. When you fail, you gain experience, you gain strength, you gain wisdom, you gain resilience. But when you settle, you gain nothing. You remain stuck, unchanged, and unfulfilled. Settling may protect you from the pain of failure, but it also protects you from the joy of success, from the pride of progress, from the thrill of pushing yourself to your limits and discovering that you are capable of more than you ever imagined. Extraordinary begins the moment you decide that settling is no longer an option. It begins when you say, I will not waste this life I have been given. I will not let my potential go unused. I will not look back with regret knowing I accepted less when I could have demanded more. It begins with a choice to break free from the patterns of average, to stop living by the expectations of others, to stop waiting for the perfect time and start creating the life you desire now. Extraordinary does not wait for circumstances to be perfect. It creates perfection out of imperfection. It creates progress out of chaos. It creates momentum out of action. Living an extraordinary life requires vision, and vision requires courage. You must be willing to see what others cannot, to dream beyond the boundaries of what is considered realistic, to imagine a future that defies the limits placed upon you. Vision is the seed of the extraordinary, but it is only realized when you water it with action, when you protect it with discipline, when you fight for it with persistence. Without action, vision dies. Without persistence, vision fades. Without courage, vision is abandoned. But with all three, vision grows into reality, and that reality becomes extraordinary. Extraordinary is not reserved for a chosen few. It is available to anyone who chooses it. It is available to the person who decides they will no longer let their past define them. It is available to the person who decides that no setback will stop them. It is available to the person who refuses to let excuses run their life. The extraordinary is not about talent alone, it is about hunger. It is about the relentless pursuit of more, not for greed, but for growth, for the fulfillment of becoming who you were always meant to be. The world does not benefit from you settling. The world does not grow when you play small. The people around you are not inspired when you accept average. But when you choose extraordinary, you light a path for others. You show them what is possible. You remind them that they too can rise, that they too can create, that they too can live fully. Extraordinary is not just about you. It is about the legacy you leave, the impact you make, the lives you touch. By choosing to live at a higher level, you give others permission to do the same. Settling will always be easier, but easy never creates meaning. Settling will always feel safer, but safety never creates growth. Settling will always keep you comfortable, but comfort never creates greatness. You were not born to settle into a life that leaves you wondering what could have been. You were born to rise, to push, to expand, to create, to leave this world better than you found it. Extraordinary is not an option you stumble upon. It is a choice you make every day, a choice to demand more, to give more, to live more, to be more.